webinar just so that we have access to it and other people have access to it. So if you don't want to be on camera, don't turn the camera on. Okay, good.
All right, so welcome. We are so excited at Thriving University to partner with Thrively. It was like meant to be because our names are so close, you know, Thriving University, Thrively, to take what we do at Thriving, which is normally working with adults and helping adults give it to kids, to really creating something that's directly for kids. We are so excited and proud of this course. And we're happy that Gina from Team Thrively is going to show you how easy it is to use. And I also just want to, I'm going to put in a link. If you look at the course for kids and you're like, this is awesome. We also do this for adults. So we have a free ebook on our website called Taking Time to Breathe. So at the same time your students are working on this, you could be taking some time for you to learn how to breathe as well. So that's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to turn it over to Gina.
Thank you. We're so excited at Thrively to be in this partnership with Thriving University and to be offering this course, which is just amazing. I'm so excited for you guys to see inside the course, but also to experience it with your kids. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to take you into the platform so that you could have a look inside Thrively. So the first thing you'll want to do is to create an account. You can create a free account from thrively.com, and you'll just click on the join button, and you can authenticate through Google. If you have a Google account, that's one of the easiest ways, or you can create a user ID and password in a more traditional sense. Once you log in, you will find that really our philosophy in Thrively at its very core is that every child has a genius and they deserve to thrive. And so we hope that the content and experience your students have from inside Thrively really exuberates that message of empowering them to be their best selves. We actually have a 4-part approach to that journey. The first part is getting to know yourself. So how do students get to know themselves? We have the industry's first and only strengths assessment that was built from the ground up from the psychometricians of children and adolescents. What that means to your kids is that the way that the Thrively Strengths Assessment has been designed taps directly into the way that kids think, the way they understand questions, the way they process information, and the answer responses are also authentic to the way that students answer to certain scenarios. So for example, some of you may be familiar with other types of strength finding tools, such as Gallup Strengths Finder is one that I was trained on. There's also Strong Interest Inventory and many others in between. All of those tools were developed initially as a means to helping employers maximize the productivity of their workforce. So it wasn't necessarily from the lens of empowering individuals, but more so as empowering the workforce team so that employers could organize and leverage teams for maximum productivity. The answer options in those assessments generally ask people to answer on a continuum, right? I'm more likely to agree, less likely to agree, somewhat disagree. The problem is that kids don't think like that. I have 4 children of my own, and I often say, I know for an absolute fact that adolescents don't think like adults. If they did, my life would be a lot easier. They just can't do it. They have a different way of looking at information and taking it in, especially when it pertains to themselves. So what you'll see in the strengths assessment, and I encourage you to take it for yourself, to take your strengths assessment, you're going to click on your avatar in the left side of the screen. And here where mine says view strengths profile, yours will say take assessment. All of these assessments are complete. That's why it says to view the results. But until they're complete, you have the option of taking the assessment. So you'll see when you take the assessment, questions are, for example, you're running a relay race and the student next to you falls. What do? Do you stop and help the student? Do you keep running but call out for help? Do you finish the race and go back for help? So each question and each response can lead to multiple acumen. When the strengths assessment is complete, this is what you will see. Students are able to see their top 5 strengths. If you hover over any one strength, you will see a definition of that strength, as well as a link to activities that will build on this strength. So right away, we're getting students to know themselves and be able to build from a place that they're already awesome. When I was a classroom teacher, did the strengths assessment with over 2,000 students. And I will tell you, there is nothing like this moment, because kids innately know that they're good at something, but it's really hard to describe it, to add those words to it, to really articulate what are your strengths. And that's true of adults too. For most of us, we've been in a job interview or a situation where someone has asked us what our strengths are. And I will tell you that more than 90% of adults will name skills. If I were to ask an adult what their strengths are, they might say they're proficient in computers, they are excellent at bookkeeping, those types of skills, but not quite get to that depth of language around strengths. So we want to give kids that right up front. So we give them this, which is we call the strengths profile. And the strengths profile not only unfolds the strengths, but teaches the kids what do those strengths look like when they're in combination with one another. Because you may have several students that are creative thinkers, but creative thinkers that are also verbal and analytical and compassion and academic look different. And so this is the part that always resonates. This is the part where kids are jumping out of their seat saying, yeah, that is me. That is how I act. That is what I do. In addition to the strengths assessment, we have some other built-in assessments that can help kids understand even more about who they are. We have a Midas assessment based on Howard Gardner's work of multiple intelligences. And again, it's not to say that these are the only intelligences you have. In fact, if you look here, James has all of the intelligences in some amount. But these are his top 3 smarts. And I always point to kids that this is kind of like your core operating system, right? If you're approaching new information, you're learning something new, this is where you're going to start. Now, if those smarts don't work, you are going to have to employ the other intelligences. And so it makes sense for you to keep building the skills that support those intelligences. But it's also empowering to know where you're starting from.
Can I interrupt 1 second, Gina?
Of course.
You may be going there anyways, but one of the things that I found was great, and now planes going overhead, is that once your kids take the strengths assessment, you as the teacher get all of those reports. So you can easily see what your kids' top strengths are. And it will show you of your class, like this many people have this smarts, or these 2 are very similar. And so it's interesting that you can use it all kinds of ways to group kids together that are different or that are, similar. And I just think it's really cool.
Absolutely. This is information that I want to say that I thought I was a pretty good teacher, but this is a depth of information that you can't possibly have on every student until you're far into the school year, if at all, right? So when I was teaching in junior high or high school and seeing 250 kids a day, you're not going to get to this level with 250 kids. This was a very fast way for me to get to know those kids in the first week of school. And so getting to this depth for every student is a game changer for how you interact with that student, but also how you support them in their little ecosystem, right? Who do they partner with? Who do they group with? Who can maximize and leverage their strengths? I'm going to get to a piece of the platform where you can see exactly the things that Joelle was speaking of. So here is the Midas. We also have Habits of Mind based on Arthur Costa and Ben Kellick's work, The 16 Habits of Mind. And again, these are the 16 habits that we know everyone needs to develop in order to be successful. These are James's top 3 habits, but that's not to say he doesn't have all of these habits and is continuing to develop not only these other habits, but even in his top 3 is continuing to grow. And then we can also do a Y-O-U assessment. So all that information together shows what your students can find out about themselves, but again, so what you can find out about the student. So if I go to Insights from my left navigation bar, and I choose Class Snapshot, I can see a quick look at all of the kids in my class, their interests and their aspirations. I can also differentiate by classes if I have more than one section. I can also sort by a specific strength, so I'm looking for all academic kids, who are they? Or I'm looking for academic kids who like creative writing, and then I can find them. This is the part that is probably my very favorite part. So one thing that I love doing is when students have finished the assessment, you can hover over this. This is again an Insights Strength Interest Breakdown. You can hover over this strength and you can see the definition of that strength. So typically I would go over the definition, read the definition aloud and ask students, what do you think that someone who's analytical can contribute to our classroom? What do they bring to the environment? What do they bring to our groups, to the work we do together? Students have fantastic ideas. One of my favorites is flexibility, right? What do flexible people do? Inevitably, every time we do flexibility, some kid in the class says, flexible people don't make problems. They're not the ones who argue in groups, right? They get along, they make it work, they learn, they help others to cooperate. So once we've gotten all that fabulous feedback about how great it is to have flexible people, we can click on the blue bar and we can see who the people are that have flexibility. And so we can see, I can sort this by this entire school, homeroom, or just a specific class. That's cool. And again, click on the bar. So we can go through each strength like that. What I love about that process is, in fact, kids are offering value and telling why someone is so important to the group before they know who that someone is. So it could very easily be a kid that refused to have lunch with you yesterday, but now is saying why you're so valuable to the learning environment. It's really a wonderful way to build that value for not just your own strengths, but the strengths of everyone and everyone together. We also can go into what your students are interested in. So if I look here and I see I have 9 students who identified science and technology as an area of interest. When I click on that, I can see exactly within science and technology what they said they were interested in. It's great when I'm going to start a new robotics club and I know that these 5 kids have already said they're interested. We also ask them what they want to be when they grow up. And the reason that we do that is that we want to learn a little bit more about what inspires them, what interests them. So if we go back and we take a look at James and his journey, we can see that James said he'd like to be an airline pilot or a doctor or an engineer. And you know, the truth is that James doesn't know what he wants to be. I barely know what I want to be. So James, but we do need to understand he can only identify things that he's heard of before, that maybe a parent or a parent of a friend has as a job. Maybe he thinks it's something that makes a lot of money. That's pretty much the extent of James' ability to navigate a career option. But that's okay. When we go into that pathway, James can learn all about it. All of the O-Net data, the work, the description, the skills, the work activities and work style, educational and salary requirements are built in. But more importantly, we have curated this, which is a feed of videos that are a day in the life of a pilot, what traits make a good pilot, how do I become a pilot, and it really gives James the chance to hear from pilots what that job life is like. And if James is still interested in this path, then we feed to him activities populated by zip code that help build this career, build the skills needed for this career. So all of that is really good, but the part that makes it even better is now that we know James's interests and aspirations and also his strengths and learning styles and habits, we can start recommending pathways that are aligned to James's strengths, but is also his interests and the way that he does things. So now it becomes this organic exploration of careers that he maybe never heard of before. And he can continue to add them and edit them into his interest feed at any time. So that forms the first two parts of our Thrively journey. The first part, getting to know yourself, and the second part, finding a purpose and connecting to that passion. In the third part of the journey, we want kids to build the skills they need for life. And so here you'll see the Breathe playlist, which I promise we're going to get into in just a moment. But also you can see that all of the categories of lessons are sometimes what we would call soft skills, but we also have things like STEM, STEAM, 21st century skills, next gen topics. Really, our philosophy is that schools do core content very well. They know how to deliver that. They know how to measure it. And so Thrively is here to provide everything else. You can sort by category, but you can also sort by grade level. Or you can just select a keyword if you're looking for a lesson on grit, and then you'll find all the different lessons on grit. And you will see that a typical lesson looks like this. It's broken down into exercises. Students usually engage with some multimedia piece. I would say 80% are videos, although sometimes you will see a website or a document or an image. We provide them with the multimedia and then also the opportunity to reflect. So the key difference here is reflection. We know that students consume tons of media. It's unendingly accessible to them. What they don't do is take the time to process that information and apply it to themselves. So we want them to internalize that and take that information on to how does that help them become a better person, grow their skills, deepen their awareness. Couple of things about this feature: you can type the text. Obviously here the student has typed text, but you can also record video reflection of yourself talking out the answers, or audio. Audio is my favorite, and it's solely based around this rainbow synthesizer. Like, it is my favorite thing in the world. So you just record and you stop recording and you can save it to post. The other piece for accessibility that we've incorporated is this button up here, which is turn on read aloud. When I click on the turn on read aloud, every prompt becomes readable. So I can just click here.
10,000 plus persistent pennies.
And
there's a number associated with world-class performance.
And the prompts can be read aloud. So we really have tried to add those features that will make all of the content very accessible to students. And it's not reading level or writing level that will prevent you from deepening and growing these skills. So after they do a couple of exercises, students are able to save their changes or finish the lesson. So that is the third piece. The first piece, getting to know yourself. The second piece, finding purpose and passion. And the third piece, building those skills. The very last piece is to take all those things, your strengths, your skills, your passion, your experience, and use all of that to create meaningful impact in the world. And so to that end, we have our project-based learning interface, where students are challenged to design solutions, create innovative products, and engage and inspire others outside of their classroom with project-based learning. And in this, and you can browse existing projects and you'll find that there are projects in everything from STEM, STEAM, to colonial times, creating comic books, creating video games, and other projects that we've built in partnership with businesses. So there's projects for ABC7 and Tesla and a few other business connections projects that we've made. So that's something for all of you to just keep in mind as you continue to use Thrively. We really like to help bridge that connection from local industry into the students' experience in classrooms so that they can not just gain those skills and apply those skills, but grow their understanding of what jobs exist in the economy outside their door. So that is my big nutshell overview. And now what I really want to get to is the thing you all came here most of all for. So to get to the Breathe playlist, you are going to go to playlists from your sidebar navigation, and then you're going to go to playlist store. If you search for Breathe, I've already bought it, so it's not going to show up there. You will find the playlist and it will say buy this playlist. Let me see if I can find one just so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so here's the button that will say buy playlist. When you hit that, you're going to buy a classroom version. Don't get scared by the price. You've been given a promo code, which is it Breathe 2020?
Yeah.
20. Yeah. 20, Breathe 20. So you're going to type in the promo code Breathe 20. When you hit apply, the cost will go to $0 for you. So make sure you use that promo code, and then it will ask you, do you want to access your new playlist? And the answer is absolutely, of course. So let's take a look at the Breathe secondary playlist. Couple of things to point out to you. One is that your students do not have access to the playlist until you assign it to them. I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to show you how to add students. So don't worry, we're going to get there, I promise. But you have to assign it before your students can see this. And that's a really important reason we do that. We want you to be able to have time in your account to review lessons, to organize and structure the way that you want to release them to students. And so we want to make sure just the teacher's holding on to that until she's ready to share with students. The other thing I want to point out is the teacher guide. The teacher guide is right here to the right of the playlist overview title. And it tells you the description, the objectives, the skills and standards we're going to be covering in this playlist. But it also gives you a little more information about what's in there. The lessons, the goals, the journals, the projects, all that stuff is going to show up in there. On the third page of this teacher guide is a timeline that helps to sequence the lessons, but also kind of tell you how much is realistic to accomplish in a 30-minute window or so. Then the last, oh, that's it. Okay, then let's get out of this one. Okay. So what you see in the playlist is the Taking Time to Breathe course and several goals. These goals correspond to each of the sections of Breathe. So B is for build belonging. That's going to be the first goal. R is for reflect on purpose. That's going to be the second goal. So you'll see that there's a goal for each of the letters. There's also this gratitude journal, which I absolutely love. So the gratitude journal is really just a prompt for students, asking them to talk about the things that they're grateful for. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? I have to tell you that in practice, I used to have, when I was teaching, and my son was in kindergarten then, we had a 30-minute commute to school. And so we had a game that we played in the car where you had to say 3 things that you were thankful for. Every day we did it on the way to school. And the trick was that you could never say something that you had already said before. So it goes pretty well for the first 2 weeks. And then in the third week, you struggle a little bit. And it's okay to struggle, but then something fantastic happens. After you get through the struggle, you start noticing the smallest things that make you happy and thankful. And so even at age 5, he would say things, eventually he got to the place where he would say things like, I had a delicious breakfast today. Which was a little bit of a lie because most of the time we had cereal. But I think that he really just became thankful. So I think I would encourage you to use that journal yourself for sure, but definitely with your students. Growing that gratitude is something really amazing, and it really changes the center of who kids are. And I think especially in this COVID lockdown time, it's important to highlight those things. It's important to remember that there are still things to be thankful for, even though you're frustrated and trapped and it's going on and on and on. There will still be those tiny, tiny things that make you happy every day. All right, let's get into the meat.
Gina,
Yes.
on the goal too. Part of the thing when we were building the course is, kids will take a couple weeks if they work 30 minutes a day or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever to take the course. But we didn't want it to end there, right? Like so many times when adults go to trainings, we're pumped up for about 2 weeks and then we get on to other things. And so the goals might be designed to last a quarter, a semester, or the whole year. There's so many things that they can continue to work on, even when they're done with the course work, just to keep that breathe philosophy going.
I just wanted to check one thing because I got a little bit nervous here. Because I didn't see the okay, I am recording. Good. I just had to check because I didn't see the record button up there. Okay. So yes, the goal stays on forever. I'm going to show you where those goals appear for students, but you should definitely take a look at the goals because the goals definitely support deeper development, right? So beyond what you're doing in this playlist, beyond this first introduction to this idea and these lessons, students can continue to build out these pieces and grow in these areas. So we definitely want to do that. And I'll walk through how goals themselves work separately. I want to first go into content. So the only difference between a course and lessons is that courses unfold with a certain sequence to the lessons. So it will start with lesson 1. There's the introduction and the first prompt. And again, I have this assist turned on so that someone can read the prompts to me. If you decide to turn it off, you just click back up here and you don't have those anymore. Students can work through the exercises, completing their reflections. When you have students complete reflections, you will just click here on journal entries and you will get to see all of your students' reflections. The other way you can see reflections is if you click on journals from your left sidebar navigation, and I could just type a student's name, and then I can see all of that student's reflections. Really easy way to keep tied into who's doing what. I can take this reflection of James, I can give it a star to let him know I read it, and I can also type a response or give some feedback directly into that journal entry. All right, let's go back to the playlist. All right. So students are going to work through the course. If I follow the teacher guide, then they're going to continue to work on pieces of each lesson every day. We have all very carefully scaffolded those lessons so that it's a manageable chunk for the day, but also overloading on any one piece is going to take away from some of the depth of processing, right? So for example, on day 1, you do lesson 1, activities 1 to 3, but if you look at day 3, you're only doing 3 out of the 5 activities of lesson 2. I hope that makes sense. All right, if anybody has any questions, which I realize I didn't say before, if you want to type them into the chat, we'll make sure that we address those along the way. What I'm going to do now is show you how you can get your students onto the platform, because most likely what you started by doing was creating your first account, your own free account. But now you really need to connect your students to it so that you can share this content with them, but also so that you can see the wonderful and robust things that they're doing. All right, if you click on my class, you can go to this blue action tab, and there are several ways to add students. The top bar is for add students. The first is an invite code. Students can create a free account just as you did, and then you can give them an invite code that will have them link to your account. So you'll get requests to link to your account. Those requests are located up here. So I have no active requests. If I had an active request, I'd have a red dot like that telling me that there were some kids waiting to be added to my class. The other thing you can do if you are using Google Classroom is to import your students via Google Classroom. If you do it this way, there is no need for kids to create an account at all. Instead, what will happen is you will go to Google Classroom, you will select your Google Classroom account. It's asking you to have permission to view your Google Class rosters. You're going to allow that, and then it's going to sync. And then I can choose, this is a 6th grade class, this is a 7th grade class, and this is an 8th grade class. And then I can sync them all. Maybe you don't want to sync them all. Maybe it's just syncing your homeroom for the time being, and that's what you will do and import students. Another way you can do it, if you have a small group of students or you're working with a particular cohort of students, is that you can just add students here. So I commonly have added students and created a generic pattern to their username. And then you want to choose which class that you're going to place them in. Or if you don't have any classes here, or you don't have the specific class that you want to add, you're going to go ahead and add that new section. And then we add it, and we can save, and this student's account will be saved. Bulk upload, oops, I think it's saying that I didn't save that student, and that's okay. Bulk upload you do with a spreadsheet file. I would say I would highly recommend to you Google Classroom first and foremost if you have it. The invite code is the second easiest probably, or working with smaller students, add manually. The reason that I don't love this step, we do this when we're doing a whole school site or a whole district, but when you're working with one single class, it's a lot easier to use these other 3 options. Once you have added your students, you can assign them to things. So if we go back to the Taking Time to Breathe playlist, I can assign it to students. All my class sections that I have are here. I can assign it to one student at a time if I'm not sure if I want all students working on it, or I can use the button at the bottom to add it to all homeroom students. And at any time, I can also unshare it with those students. When I click finish, this playlist will appear in a student's account. Similarly, you want to assign the goals. So if you go to a goal, you can assign it to your students, same way, choosing from the homeroom section or whatever class section you want, and adding them one by one or all homeroom students. All right. I want to show you one more thing, and then we'll just take a breath and see what kinds of questions there are. When students have goals, one of the most important things that we do as part of this process is teach them how to collect evidence. So what I'm going to do is show you inside a student's platform so that you can see how this works from their end. I can move that.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to say real quick, I know that there's people who are not educators, they're parents that want their kids in there. And very exciting news is that Thrively is going to open a parent portal, or I'm not sure what the right word is for it. But in the meantime, till June 30th, if you want your kids to take Breathe, first of all, go reach out to their teachers and get them to sign up. But if they aren't, you can contact Janine or myself, and we will be the teachers for your students. So just send us an email. I'll put, Janine will put her an email, and I'll put my email, and we will add you to our class because we want every kid in the world to take this course. So anyhow. That's all.
Oh, that's fantastic. Me too. I think this is going to be great. Who better to moderate your class? Maybe you do that anyway, even if your child's teacher is going to do it. Okay, here we are in James's platform. So now I'm logged in as James. So this is how he sees the platform. The one thing you'll notice is his navigation is right here across the front. And so his playlists, to avoid any confusion, are in a drop-down menu here so that he's only seeing one playlist at a time. The contents of this playlist for him are spilled out into this carousel, or he can click on View Details to see the playlists the way in the teacher version. Okay. One thing I want to point out, we'll go back and do that in just a minute. All right. So James can see these things this way. If we go to James' digital portfolio, we can see that this blue banner is completely customizable. James can add media, he can add video or photos, he can customize his summary statement, his interests, his aspirations. All of his assessments are located in the portfolio. But then we have this piece of goals. So I just want to take a look at a goal. One of my favorites is this one. Become a productive collaborator. So if this is our goal for James, we have set forth an action plan and a rubric. What does that look like to be a productive collaborator? We want to make sure that we give James that context of what's really the ultimate goal in becoming a productive collaborator. You want to make sure you accomplish all of these elements, right? And for James to have some scale of where am I now and where am I headed? You'll see in the Breathe goals that there are those rubrics as well. I like to have a little checklist of items that kind of help James say, these are the things you're supposed to be doing. These are the action items. You'll see in the Breathe goals that there are some other resources as well. We also want to have an action plan. We want to ask James, listen, if these are all the things that you know are going to go into this goal, what are you going to do to accomplish it? Once we've really gone through that process, we're going to gather highlights. And you will see in the teacher guide of the Breathe playlist that there are definitely points marked out through the process for pausing and collecting highlights. If we really understand that first step of B, what do those examples from our own life look like? There's two important reasons to do this. One is to deepen reflection, but two is to teach kids that everything they're doing are little tiny pieces of bigger goals. So isn't it wonderfully efficient to be able to stack up those pieces and show how much you've grown, and also to go about stacking those pieces with intention? And so here, James's intention is to become a productive collaborator. He knows what that looks like because we've gone through it with him in the overview. And now he's searching for examples in his own life when he's been successful or made progress towards in any way that goal. So here he's uploaded a video that's a presentation of him working with his group. Some other things are from inside of Thrively, such as his strengths assessment. But again, it's not necessary that it comes from Thrively. What's necessary is that students reflect on their own lives, see where these things apply, and infuse them into their goals, but more so as a showcase or collection of how much progress they've made over time. So that's how goals work. What I would like to do is just go back to a little piece that I'm sure teachers are wondering about, which is how can I know what my kids are doing and what they've done? So if I go to the playlist, I have a handy way of doing that. I'm going to show you in the Breathe playlist, but because I don't have students here, I'm also going to take you into one more. Over here is the overview of the playlist. If you scroll down, that's where you're going to see all the content, right? But if I click on this tab for progress report, I can get a little more information about what students are doing. So I'm going to take you into another playlist so you can see how that looks when students are making progress. Here's the essential skills for success. Okay, if I look into the progress overview, I can see a lot of students have not yet started and a lot are in progress. If I look down here and I hover over the lesson, over the number, I can see exactly which lessons Ashley has started, and I can see which lessons she has completed. So that's a good way for you to monitor what's been done so far in your Taking Time to Breathe playlist. Another piece that is helpful to you when reviewing those things is, pretty sure I have this one. Do I have that one? Let me find one that I know we have responses to. So many lessons. Try this one. Oh, just running out of luck here. Let me grab one from here. Fullerton. Okay. This one. Okay. So if I go to any one lesson, and you'll be able to do this within the course too, and you can do it lesson by lesson. So if you're in lesson 1 and you just want to see which students have done lesson 1, I can click here to see the completed ones, the ones that have started. But I can also click right here on journal entries to go to exactly those prompts that were answered for this lesson. So I can see exactly what James' reflection was for that lesson. And you'll be able to manage that through your Breathe course as well. As we go into the course, lesson by lesson, you'll see what those journal entries will add up to be.
Can you show, Gina, just a sample of one of the checklists too in the goals, in the Breathe goals?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, maybe if I go from the list. So if we go to thankfulness and appreciation, here's the action plan, right? This is what you're going to need to do to be able to accomplish this tap into thankfulness and appreciation. We have the rubric here. Again, telling kids what is the continuum of learning to be grateful, showing appreciation, right? If I'm just in the beginning of this phase, this is what I'm doing. As I move to mastery, I'm gaining more and more in that skill. And so the collection of artifacts in that goal should be demonstrating the progress along the way. Here's the checklist of items. What are the things I can do? What are the things I can collect that will help me to accomplish this goal, but also show over time I'm making progress, right? I'm becoming better and better at tapping into thankfulness. And then here are some other resources for you and for the students to build their understanding capacity and give them some ideas of things they might collect as evidence of progress. This one I really like. It's an activity that helps you to build a 3-part thank you, and then to turn that into a thank you letter. Wonderful, wonderful. Another example of, even if you don't send the letters, of how you're building gratitude, building appreciation, and reflecting on how you have that in your life already. And then again, we're going to the progress report to see what students have uploaded towards this goal. All right, I think that I have talked sufficiently enough. Can we take a moment to answer questions, show you something more in depth that you were hoping to see?
One of the questions that came up in the chat box, Gina, was can kids younger than 3rd grade be in the course? And I said for Breathe, we sort of designed it for 3rd through 12th, but can you better answer that question?
Yes, so we have tons of content for K2. The Breathe course particularly starts at grade 3, and then there's also the secondary school version. But if you're in your free account and you go to playlist, you should be able to search K2, and you will see that we have tons of playlists. You can also get them from the store and the library. There's tons of K2 options. And there are also K2 lessons. So if you go to lessons and you choose that primary elementary, you will find those lessons that are appropriate for K2.
Awesome. And another question that came up was, Breathe is free, is Thrively free? And I said, anybody can, this is how I answered it. You correct that anybody can sign up for Thrively for free. And then there's some courses that are free and some that you pay for. Is that?
Yeah, so we have actually multiple levels of content in Thrively. Free courses for everybody. Everybody has that access to the strengths assessment. Our strengths assessment is absolutely free. And so as a teacher, you also get that rich data. We also have what we call Pro Level, which gives you access to most content in Thrively. Lots of lessons and projects and all kinds of other goodies are located in the Pro Level membership, which most students or most teachers would want eventually, because that's going to give you a little more functionality as far as what you can give to students, what you can assign to students. And Pro Level memberships are generally $4 a student. And we do generally have a minimum site license of 250. However, we also do classroom licenses at 99, and then we negotiate with district-wide or school-wide contracts as well. So our main goal is to get this content to your kids and to have them have that experience. We don't want budget to be the only limiting factor there, so always reach out to us. For now, we've even turned on Pro Level for those teachers and schools and districts and parents who request it. So you can always, from any screen on Thrively, go to this blue box that says leave a message. That actually goes directly to our help desk, and you can leave a message and we will get back to you. If it's technical, tech support's super great. They'll get right back to you. If it's a question about programming or upgrading your account to Pro, somebody usually will get back to you in 24 hours or less. You can see here, mine says Pro is active. If you haven't upgraded to Pro, it usually has a red dot that says upgrade to Pro. The third highest layer of content is premium content, and that content has additional fees because most of the time, because it's been created in collaboration with a partner, with a business partner like Thriving University. So, but right now we do have Pro Level available through the end of June to anyone who wants access. So just reach out to us by leaving a message and we will upgrade your account to Pro. We will also spend a little bit of time with you and understand how you want to use it so that we can help you navigate to other content that's going to be relative to the work that you would like to do. lot of social emotional learning in Thrively, but also things like career awareness, workforce readiness skills, financial literacy, all sorts of project-based learning. So there's just many, many ways to use the product. So we do ask people to reach out to us when they want to upgrade to Pro, because we want to make sure that you can get to the things that are most relevant to the work you do.
Gina, thank you. And one other question that was sent to me was what are the badges for, and how do
badges? I love badges. So we have built into Thrively badges. It's a digital badging system. You can create a badge for absolutely anything you want. So all you do is click on create a badge. You can get an image that you like for it. You can name it and write a description. You can change the shape of the badge. It's really quite fun. And then once your badge is created, it has this little gear setting here that allows you to award it to students. So all your classes are here. You can choose the student and award the badge to them. It's we have several that are embedded already, so you can find a badge that works for something you need. But definitely I recommend creating some custom badges, because it's just fun. And kids love it. Kids love this collecting badges and collecting achievement, that when I award this badge to a student, it pops up automatically in their digital portfolio. And so we actually, as part of this parent platform re-release that Joelle was speaking of earlier, we actually are also going to support with some other fun badging that students can work towards from home.
Yeah, nice. Exciting.
I'm excited. Anything else for the good of the cause? Anybody have questions, something else they want to see?
That was awesome, Gina. Super inclusive.
I know I talk fast and a lot, and it is a lot. The platform, as you can tell, is really robust. But again, we at Thrively like to work personally with teachers and schools and districts and parents to help customize that program and tailor it to your exact needs. That's one of the reasons you will really just love starting from here, starting from this Breathe course and playlist. It's really going to give your students and your kids an opportunity to grow and reflect and build some skills, and that social emotional learning that we honestly all need right now.
Yeah.
Right? Even those of us who feel confident and proficient need to remember to take time to breathe, and need to remember that there are some good self-care things that are going to help us in this time.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I would just, a reminder for those who may have come in late, that at the top of the chat box, there is a link for our Taking Time to Breathe for adults, just because I want to recognize that we are all, including myself, so, it's like, what emotions are you feeling? 1,000 different ones all at the same time. And so I think it's just a great resource. And also, now that you've seen this, you have a chance to dive in, start playing, assign your own kids if you're afraid to assign it to your students yet, put your own kids in there. And then I think we're going to do another webinar in a week or two, and you'll be able to come back and say, oh, now that I've been in, here's some more questions that I have, because sometimes it's hard to know what you don't know yet.
Yes.
So there's one other question here. When you assign the playlist, is it one lesson at a time or all at once? For the playlist, it is in order. Some other playlists you can go kind of out of order.
You can go out of order, but all of those lessons will be assigned at once. And each lesson at the top does have a shareable link. So it'll say share this lesson if you wanted to link just one specific lesson to give kids a little more straightforward direction about, this is the lesson I wanted you to do today.
Mm-hmm.
And also in the calendar, in the teacher's guide, all of those lessons, and those are just suggested times, those lessons range from 15 to 30 minutes. They're all hyperlinked. So you could actually take that link and put it in Google Classroom or something like that, right? So the kids
Right.
find it.
Share it somewhere. Yeah. And we just do that just as a convenience. It's not really like a mandated order or mandated progression, but it's not dependent on that. But in the course, you're automatically going to flow in the order of the lessons as they unfold.
All right.
Awesome. All right. We just want to say thank you to everyone too for giving of your time. We know in some ways we have all the time and no time with the with distance learning. So thank you so much for coming today. And yeah, reach out if we can be of any other support or help.
Absolutely. And Thrively is here for you too. Just remember, you always have that leave a message button. Even before you've logged in, there is a leave a message button.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Have a great rest of your day.
Positive. We'll see you soon.